Did you ruin the staple? Sketchy stuff?
Yeah, mostly I've already created the library, and now I've had to edit the library to expose
I was wondering if I could see like.
Yeah, find it.
You know, are these the stickers?
Yes. You're welcome.
Wait, it's not.
No.
All the actors are entities.
We had a lecture in which we explicitly complained about the naming convention.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I had like 4 hours to study on my birthday. I did my best that I could.
I think you did pretty well, right?
Below average.
Oh, okay.
I'm okay with it.
Oh, there's the mistake.
Alive.
Yep, mistaken the Lua, forgot to include a self-stop.
Yeah, it hurt when I had to. We had some people who had 100%, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to get the next problem. You're going to get 100%, and then like they'd make a tiny little Lua syntax error. I'd be like, oh,
I had the like list in my head of like all the things self-thought,
yeah.
the, like not
and
ones after functions, then after ifs, and make sure that eggs on every single thing as soon as
How was that working for you?
Yeah.
yeah, and other thing I forgot was that and is word and not
Yeah.
I have never written
So these
and before.
Yeah. Isn't that how it is in Python as well?
Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
The only problem is
Okay.
native
I've
components.
done so many errors I found this to be using exclamation marks instead of word.
Amazing. Yep. Yep.
I am proud of this.
Yeah, it's good. I took photos of my favorites. I took a photo of that one.
Yeah.
You can't forget that.
I got extra.
Yeah, I got extra for the staff and the
Nice. Oh.
Oh, so it's like a lost one.
Yeah, the average was 87, so 88 is above average. Oh, because not every student. There's like a test student in there who gets a 0. Like, yeah, that messes it up.
That's the more important thing.
Exactly.
I need them. I want everything. Oh no, that I
So this is kind of dumb to even bring up, but I think my my thing was summed up wrong.
Oh, what's the problem?
I think I only lost 4 points.
Okay.
Is that something with the extra credit?
Yeah, ask me during office hours when I'm going to be actually.
Okay.
Okay. What? Yeah. Lame. Lame. And I came up with the sticker idea before it became standard in the department. So, so you should ask, why don't you do like the 494 sticker custom logo and all that? No, definitely not. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to it. You all have your exams now, and I'm going to ask that you check the exam out, check the basic stuff. Make sure, for instance, that I summed up the score correctly, because it was a very long grading session, and I was quite tired toward the end of it. So if I made a mistake like that, we'll get you your points back. We'll get your grade corrected. If I gave you too many points, you probably shouldn't ask me to correct your grade. If I gave you too few, please do ask me. But please ask me during office hours when we conclude today's lecture. If you see a question that you believe has been misgraded, or whose grading or point deduction doesn't make sense to you, please take note of it. And then during office hours today, please bring it up and we will have a discussion and we'll decide what we want to do from there. Please note, if you take your exam home, I will not grade it again after today. Okay? I do not want you taking these exams home. Just for security reasons, you make an edit at home and things get spicy real fast. Okay? And so please do your checking during this hour and during the office hours, okay? I'll be around for the whole thing. And let me know if you have anything you want to talk about, all right? We're going to go over the entire exam today. I'm going to explain the questions and the solutions and answers to you. And if you have any question with one of the answer key solutions, then please call me over during office hours, and I'll have that conversation with you, okay? But the official answers are now available, and you can look at what they are if you go to today's lecture document, or if you go to the exam assignment specification. You can find the answer key right here, and you can find the question packet that goes with it right here, okay? And you can read through them and get a feel for what we were looking for. One thing that's really tricky about these questions is that they are open, they are free form, and so sometimes an answer that is actually logically valid for full points won't get it because it is doing very strange things. And we either misread it or didn't have enough time. So please be sure to check your free response questions in particular, okay? Those were easier for me to mess up when grading. All right, so look at this schedule, everyone. Look at this schedule. You are almost free, and the summer is so close you can taste it. There's going to be one more lecture on Monday, and that Monday lecture is actually going to run straight into the EECS 440 showcase. If you attend that lecture, right, if anyone is not here, maybe watching online, wants a course completion sticker, you can come and get your exam. You can come and get your sticker then. But after that, we will have no final showcase. There's no final game jam. After Monday, it'll be peace out and have a good summer, okay? And so I hope you will. A couple other things. There is extra credit in this course coming up. A nice little, pretty easy chunk of extra credit, I believe 4 points a pop, for attending the EECS 440 showcase and attending the EECS 494 Game Dev showcase, okay? If you have time, if you are free, go there, engage with some VR and AR apps, engage with some games, take a couple selfies with them, and submit those to Canvas as proof you attended. You get the points, okay? Very easy. Maybe patch a few holes in that exam if the score wasn't what you hoped for. If the score wasn't what you hoped for, right, just remember that exams, they're tough stuff, okay? And it requires kind of a different kind of studying than most of your other assignments and projects do. I was always really terrible at exams, and I still feel like I have the record for lowest EECS 370 exam. My lowest exam in history, I think I got like an 8 out of 100 on the second 370 exam. Now, the good news was that the average was like 15 out of 100. So I made it. I survived the course, but it was not a fun time, and I didn't feel especially, I didn't feel especially smart afterward. Yes?
Is this 370 or 388? Because this sounds more like 388.
It's definitely 370. 388 was nice for me. So, all right, so just keep that in mind, okay? Remember, no matter how bad you did on this exam, not a single person lost to May, and not a single person did worse than I have done on an exam. So there you go. Okay, the final lecture is next Monday. We will have course completion stickers. Yep, best to attend in person if you can. We will talk a bit more about the nature of engines and the context of our world in 2025 and why engines matter, okay? And why your new knowledge matters. A really cool job opportunity, if anyone's looking for a game development opportunity, Jessie Yang, Professor Yang, who runs a laboratory, I believe, in industrial operations engineering, she has a summer internship / academic year internship, about 20 hours per week. Let me see if I can get this for you. Click. So the Word will open up for me, but then it blocks me. But then I can just take this little thing. I can't close it or it closes the entire program. I can do this. Okay. So Jessie's laboratory has, I believe, a not firefighting, but a kind of wildfire escape scenario in which she puts multiple players in this very chaotic, very high-pressure environment. and then forces them to communicate in order to escape the flames. She uses this as kind of a way to study how human beings interact with each other, especially in high-stakes scenarios where there's a lot of misinformation, okay, kind of being injected in. So she has hired 3 EECS 494 people, like clockwork, to make 3 different iterations of the engine. I'm sure that she'd be very interested in your work in game engine architecture as well, okay? So if you're interested in this, please take a look at it. Send Jesse your resume, portfolio, and possibly your shiny new custom-made game engine, okay? Yeah, give it a shot, okay? A reminder, you get money out of stuff like this and a portfolio piece, but if you ever are thinking about grad school, an internship with a professor in particular is more valuable than most things, okay, for getting into a good grad school. So keep that in mind. We have a fantastic engine. This is actually one I referenced not long ago during our Mario Maker engine of the day. We have, finally, Little Big Planet. Okay, did anyone play this back in the day? A really unique PlayStation 3 title from a company in the UK called Media Molecule. I feel like we should treasure them as their latest few games have not done super well, and so we should enjoy them while they are still here. It was initially released in 2008. It is famous for being a side-scrolling platformer game, but with extremely seamless online multiplayer, very easy to kind of just hop into other players' game sessions, and it has a very deluxe level creation suite, okay? And I want to show you the trailer here. So let's go ahead and just watch the trailer. Something you'll notice, I think, is that the platforming in this game is also kind of unique. Every stage can have multiple layers, and the game will automatically jump you between those layers into the foreground, into the background, right? Depending on how you move through the stage. So you can dodge things by kind of sidestepping into the background or foreground. Very interesting stuff. Let's take a look. All right. Yeah, watching this makes me really, really nostalgic. It was a game, I think this trailer gives the vibes pretty well. It's kind of a weird, quirky game, and you never quite knew what you were going to find. Just like in Mario Maker, you would jump into someone's level, and it was usually the best thing you'd seen that day or the worst. And all the stuff in the middle, you never really played, right? It just kind of got buried. The tools for doing logic were there, but a little bit archaic. And I want to show you a water trailer. What is this? Let's see. Oh yeah, they do have water in this game. Okay. There you go. And so over time, over the months, Media Molecule would actually add new features to the game. And they did that for quite a while. They eventually moved on from Little Big Planet. But good video showing gameplay. I don't want to spend too much more time, but wow, Sackboy, yes, evolved, hasn't it? But the game was, again, just very interactive and multiplayer. It was also very physics-based. So you had the ability to jump around, of course, but you could push and pull. You could move inward and outward of the foreground. If you had friends with you, you could make a chain out of them and drag each other around or create big swinging lines. And it was, it was all just, it has this homemade feel to it that's very interesting. In any case, I think that's probably it for the footage. The art style was very kind of arts and crafty. Okay, the nice thing here is that if you go with an arts and crafts art style as the official art style of the game, then any kind of crappy environment that you make as a player creator is probably going to still look kind of cohesive with the game overall. Okay, a young kid decides to make their first level and it looks absolutely terrible. But the game itself adopts that and embraces that, and so it works really well and it looks good. So you can push and pull stuff, you can swing on layers. There are 3 foreground Z layers, may switch up and down between them. The game automatically tries to figure out what layer you want when you're platforming, and it sometimes fails at this, which is a big source of frustration. This approach is very unique, and it's not something I've personally seen in any platformer game since Little Big Planet. It was a very strange part of that game's platforming setup. One thing I remember was when Reggie Fils-Aimé of Nintendo of America president, Bigwig, said, he was asked, are there any other games out there that feel like they really should be Nintendo games? They should be on the Wii. And he said that it's definitely Little Big Planet. Right? In some ways, it feels like a Nintendo game, but Mario Maker would not come out for several generations after that. So there you go. The team behind this game would eventually seek to generalize what this is. Basically, let's take Little Big Planet and say, why are we forced to be a 2D platformer? And they would make a much more general purpose arts and crafty kind of game called Dreams. Has anyone heard of that? Has anyone played it? A lot of you have heard of it. How many of you like it? Quite a bit? I'm surprised so many, because that game, I think that game bombed. It's why you're doing game dev?
Yeah, that was like the first game engine I ever really stuck my teeth into.
Wow. Okay, hold on a second.
I've written nothing but the highest praise for Dreams. Fantastic.
I remember just the initial trailers are just really weird, and there's no cool character. It like Sackboy to kind of get you into it.
There's a really big emphasis on. I've never actually
rest in peace.
But in Dreams, there's a really big emphasis on community, because you can upload your creations into the Dreams cloud, and people can remix them instead of their own things. It's really, really fantastic.
Release trailer. Okay, let's take a look. Never played the game myself. I think it looked too abstract.
That trailer does a really bad job of showing what it is.
Okay.
I think because like they should have focused on the dev tools.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a lot less of like a place where you could go to play a bunch of cool stuff because there's cool stuff to play.
Yep.
But it's much more of like, hey, go create your own thing. Like,
Yeah.
I really like it.
Good. Good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Seems not many people did, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Good stuff isn't always popular stuff. A couple quick videos just to quickly show you what the crafting and logic tools look like. They're not super efficient. Adding music tutorial, emoting tutorial, buttons tutorial. The best thing about these is that they have I think a British narrator who kind of plays into his role quite a bit.
By now, you'll see.
Oh, wait a second. I've heard that voice before, haven't you? Wow. Yeah, we just did the games and art lecture not too long ago. Okay, let's go.
Looking fancier than Mr. Fancy of 52 Fancy Street, West Fancy Town, Fancishire. So let's fancy up the interactive aspect with buttons. Choose something to connect a button to. For example, an object you've put a motorbolt on. Dive into your tools bag and go get a button. Pop it down wherever takes your fancy. Then get ready with your trusty pop-it cursor. See the connector tab sticking out of the button? Grab it by tapping the action button and heave the gadding thing out. Take it over to the object you want to control and press action. On the button tweak menu, you'll find the ability to change what they do, their behavior, if you like. On and off turns them on, or as you might expect if you're very clever, off. Direction makes the object change direction with each push of the button.
Okay, you get it, right? So there are some functionalities for creating basic logic. In general, it was very cumbersome to use, and it was a bit clumsy. It took a lot of space. But some developers, some player creators, were able to create really interesting environments and stages, and even some boss fights out of these basic tools. And you can watch the rest if you want. Very likely to be NP complete. Here's my proof. Here's a calculator app. If you can do that, you can do anything. Now, the machinery is... This is all the stuff needed to make this come to life. Like, all this for a calculator. Yeah. So, yeah. So you can do it, right? You can do it. You know how we said that certain game engines make some things easier and some things harder? That's what I'm talking about. Okay, good job. You passed the calculator stage. Okay, All right, very, very cool stuff. The last thing I want to show you before we get to the exam, which I'm sure you're all waiting for, is this new final homework assignment. Actually, it's not the final homework assignment. There's one final homework 12, which is your postmortem essay. I'll talk about that one probably more on Monday when it launches. It's going to be a very easy one, probably a cathartic one. It'll ask you to look back through time and basically just reflect on how the entire development process go. What regrets do you have? What did you learn? That kind of good stuff, okay? All right, so what is this final assignment? Well, it's very similar to your previous assignment, okay? Your mission is to get your feature finished. How's that not their custom features into the game engine? Yeah, okay. And get your custom feature finished and then get it integrated into your engine. Create a final demonstration video, all right, showing off your engine and that new feature you worked on. We also want you to move your repository, okay, your final commit, we want you to move it to a new repo that is public. Well, if you want it to be public. We want you to move it to a new repo so that if we ever have to delete yours on the EECS GitLab, then you will still have a copy of your engine code base. You won't lose it, okay? Yes?
Yeah, you can change like the stream for the Git so that it's to a GitHub and you can just push it.
Yeah. If you push the entire history of your engine, I'll be very unhappy with you. Why?
Because then it has everything.
Yes. Okay. So I'm either going to not allow you to take your engine code base out into the world, or you can take the final commit and nothing else. Okay. So do not move your early commits into a public repository. Otherwise, I have to hunt you down and we have to have some nasty conversations. Okay. Otherwise, right, cheating becomes easier and easier. More students will do it, and more students will waste their 3 or 4 months, okay? So please only take your final commit into the new repo. You will lose your history, but if you ever need it at some point, I might still have it, okay? We'll see what happens. Maybe I'm going to clone everyone's engines to like a big terabyte hard drive or something. Keep it in my closet just in case. Anyway, record that final demonstration video. Okay, you'll do all this after you've completed your final feature, polished it up, made it really useful. If you create a feature, think about how will users, not engine developers, but users, your gameplay programmers, how will they use the feature? Do you have any Lua APIs that make it easy? Do you have any documentation to help them out? Okay, think about that stuff and consider that an aspect of polishing this assignment off, okay? You will create a portfolio website. You'll have to submit a link to your portfolio website, and in order to get the points, you will need to have a website that links to your project somehow. We have templates for you that you can use if you don't want to, if you don't have a website. Those of you who have taken 494 or EECS 440 will already have one, and you can just use that if you want to. There's a video demonstration of how to use, I think, GitHub Pages to create a nice, free, static website that works really well. You can just use that if you want to. You need to embed a demonstration video into the web page of your website, or you have to link to it in a way that we're going to easily find it. On the web page, we also need you to list out somewhere the technologies you used under the hood. What does that mean? Things like C++, Lua, GLM, Lua Bridge, SDL, Box2D, that kind of stuff. And I personally recommend putting a blurb on there as well. If you go to interviews, the game engine is going to be a big shining magnet for their attention. And the person reviewing your portfolio is going to want to know as much as they can, okay? GIFs and images also very helpful. By the way, a reminder, you can go to easygif.com, and any video you have, you can very easily turn that into a GIF just in seconds via easygif.com. And that's pretty much it. Your deliverables are going to be that final demonstration video and a link to your digital portfolio website where we're going to look for all those requirements we just mentioned. The final thing that we want you to do, and this is technically optional, but we would like you to seriously do it if you can, is we want you to fill out this Google form. This will put your name, right, your engine's name, some description of the engine, its features, right, its custom feature, all this information, even a logo for your engine, okay? Right? You got some practice on the exam drawing a logo for your engine. If you have a logo, that's awesome, upload it, because eventually, maybe this summer, I'm going to create an automated database that will basically read this form, this spreadsheet every semester, and it will auto-generate a big, beautiful database where everyone that visits a2engine.org will be able to find your engine and the links to download it, not the source code, but the final, well, actually probably the final commit of your source code. Okay, so they can use your engine if they want to. So anyway, yeah, please fill that out if you want to. Okay, go for it.
Should we like include license information? Is there like a suggestion about that?
Yeah, I think you're supposed to. You're supposed to include like the MIT license and notifications. I have to look at all the libraries we used and check their licenses. What I'll say is I don't care anymore. Yeah, I don't care anymore personally, but someone might eventually one day email you or yell at you if you violate a license. Okay. All right. So just keep that in mind, and it's not a super heavy final assignment. Okay, not too bad. I think hopefully you'll enjoy it. I enjoyed watching your videos, and I can't wait to see how many of these get polished and finished up. Okay. All right. So I think it's time for the exam review. What questions do you have?
Are we going to go over all the questions?
Yeah, all the questions. So if you have a disagreement on the grading of a question or what the right answer is, bring that up to me during office hours, okay? If you have a different question, then you can ask as well as we go through this, all right? So this was the first exam I've done that's broken up into a question packet and an answers packet, and I think that improved things, though I did see quite a bit of flip-flopping like across the pages when you were working on stuff. Only so much we can do, I suppose. The first part of the exam, this exam is mainly just all in the answer packet. I don't think the question packet comes into play until question 16 or so. But the first, just a pretty typical section, okay? Just multiple choice. This is a question that maybe is slightly of a harder way to start than I would have liked. During the data-oriented design lecture, the topic of an ECS came up. What does that stand for? Entity Component System. And we talked about how the terminology is very frustrating and very misleading for ECS, right? You have made an engine. After you've completed homework 7, you have an engine that has components in it. It also has actors in it, right? And an actor is kind of like an entity. They're kind of like synonyms, right? At least in this field, right? And oh yeah, you got systems. Of course, you've got like a rendering system, right? Oh yeah, and you've got a chunk of your code base that is like the physics system. You got a box 2D, right? So it's an ECS. The answer is no, okay? In industry, in formal lingo, an ECS is a very, very particular kind of data-oriented design-aligned concept. And you can say that maybe the particle system is kind of data-oriented, but the rest of the engine, like most of the engine, is definitely not data-oriented. Thus, it is not an ECS, okay? Typically, we would refer to what we have after homework 7 as just a kind of standard Unity-style component architecture, not an entity component system architecture. And yes, the terminology is a disaster, but this did come up very poignantly in lecture, and it's something to remember so you don't get confused when you look at modern engines and the way that they construct and design themselves. This is a fun question. I love to include questions about licensing. And the question is, how do I create a nice licensing question that isn't just, what is the GPL, right? Because that's what all my questions seem to turn into when it comes to licensing. How spooky is the GPL? The answers vary. Here, we return to a story we talked about in lecture regarding Sony. Sony PlayStation is one of the most famous use cases for the BSD operating system, which is kind of like a rival to Linux. And the big question is, well, why doesn't Sony and most of their consoles use Linux? Now, interestingly, they did offer a kind of side-loaded OS in their PlayStation 3 operating system for a brief period of time. And I sometimes wonder if someone who lived through that area and had that might be confused by a question like this. But Sony does not use the Linux operating system. Why is this? It's due to the darn GPL. It always comes back to the GPL, okay, with these questions. The problem with the GPL is that it requires you to publish any sort of changes or maybe optimizations, any secret sauce you put into your operating system, it's got to be published, okay? Not good. Some companies are okay with that. Sony, no. So BSD primarily was a choice to avoid publishing changes. Avoid licensing fees. That's an answer. It's not the worst answer in the world, but this is also something that the Linux operating system would have given them. Okay, and we specifically want to know why choose BSD over Linux. Sony definitely did not create BSD or FreeBSD, and we never discussed any sort of personnel fit. And certainly the first time they used BSD, they would not have any sort of built-in personnel fit, almost certainly. Question? Comment?
Not really.
Okay.
I guess it's just the whole thing with GPL. It's just that it forces anything that uses it as a library to also be open sourced.
It's pretty scary. Yeah. So, yep. Okay, number 3. While data-oriented programming has increased in popularity in certain fields, object-oriented programming remains dominant, right? So we've got this data-oriented focus in the final couple weeks before the exam, but we need to understand that as great as data-oriented is, it's not a free lunch. It's another tool in our toolbox, and object-oriented has some real winning benefits. And typically it's said to be that naturalness. It's a more natural way to program. Humans seem to deal with this pretty well. Taking data, taking functionality and kind of popping it together close by works really well. Cache utilization, totally not. Okay, that's not a strength of object-oriented. I think you could say that's probably a weakness, a very common weakness of object-oriented approaches. Security requirements does not make any particular sense. I don't know that object-oriented is any better or worse than data-oriented for security. Licensing makes no sense. Parallelism is a reason that data-oriented is usually regarded, it's a benefit of data-oriented, not a benefit of object-oriented. So there we go. The course's engine API most closely resembles that of Unity. This is a pretty big gimme. I think we had some Godot answers, which was kind of interesting. As not many people used Godot, I do talk about Godot quite often because I do admire it as the main champion of open source engines right now. We have number 5. Today's integrated engines, Unity, Unreal, are wildly popular, but some prefer the other categories. So this is a question that's asking what are the other categories in this course beyond integrated, right? That is beginner and minimalism, right? Beginner engine, minimalistic engine. And what are the 2 main benefits of these things, right? And it's right there, minimalism, beginner friendliness. If you say that I want to move off of integrated engines to get improved documentation, that's crazy. Unity and Unreal, so especially Unity has some of the best documentation out there, the best community support out there, and Unity is extremely feature full. These 3 things are mainly aspects of integrated engines. Okay? Yes, question?
We read featurefulness as like having specific features that you would want, such as like a save system built in with RPG Maker. Could it be argued that featurefulness is correct here?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I'll buy that. So if you were to describe like, why do you go for a certain engine? It's like, it has a certain flavor. It's very specialized, right? But that's probably how I would describe that trait. Yeah, I mean, Unreal Engine is specialized too. It has a lot of features, but it has wonderful rendering support. So that wouldn't necessarily be something integrated engines lack either. But if you want to talk to me about it later, we can. 6, it is often perilous to alter a container while it is being iterated through. So in last year's exam, this was actually embedded within a Lua question, okay? But here it is just out in plain sight. So how can you deal with this? If you go back to the lecture in which we talk about this problem, we talk about collect and then alter. The idea that you can iterate through a container, kind of take note of what things you want to remove later or what indices you want to remove later, and that can help you out. Backward iteration is also kind of another piece of that pie, allowing you to sometimes remove stuff as you iterate through it, especially if you're iterating via just an index. The 2D affine transformation matrix is what in terms of dimensions? I love this question, okay? It is the kind of question that you're not going to guess. You'd probably go just 2 by 2, right? No, homogeneous coordinates are not very intuitive, but they do make important operations much easier in matrices. So 2 by 2 transformation matrix will be a 3 by 3, and the 3 by 3 the 3D transformation will be 4 by 4, okay? But this is all about the 2D one in this exam. Here, we have our first big line matching problem. I hope that you are happy the pyramid did not make a return. It didn't make it that much easier for me to grade, to be honest. But I guess it was a bit less weird and non-standard. Integrated engines, right? Lots of features, very featureful. Okay, a chunk of logic that can be a suspended coroutine. Coroutines just very lightly addressed in this exam, as you would hope. Minimalism, right? You're going to build everything yourself. You're going to start with very little in terms of resources, right? The famous Iron Man clip. You're going to build this game in a cave with a box of scraps because that's just how cool you are. Or maybe it's just how you like to roll. Steam, okay. MIT Scratch, clear, classic example of the beginner engine. The yield operation suspends a coroutine. There's not a whole lot else here to get confused with. Unity was famously involved in an install fee fiasco, which really brought up the need in previous years, the really important future need for good open source engines so that companies can't squeeze the developer base like this, right? That was our very first lecture of the course. Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin, when they decided they wanted to take a crack at the PlayStation, make Crash Bandicoot, decided to pay $35,000 to take their shot at publishing on the PlayStation. Worked out really well for them. It didn't work out super well for everyone, though, and plenty of people who had great stories to tell, I'm sure, never could find the money, and we don't have their games, and that's a shame. Early days of the Unreal Engine, $500K plus license fees, okay? So it was an early, well-known, and successful engine, but was it an accessible engine? It definitely was not. Not until Unity forced Unreal to kind of adjust their model did Unreal become more available everywhere, okay? And so we move on. This is a fun one. You're matching and making use of your knowledge of some transform, okay? Some transform stuff. So AABB, not a whole lot of good fits for that, but it is an algorithm for collision detection. Rotate my character asks you to find some sort of operation in here that will do that. In here, we have a transformation matrix that will accomplish that rotation. Analogous to a collider, right? Fixture. So the fixture packs in a bunch of information about kind of the physical properties of the object, but also it can contain shape information, okay? So that kind of maps to Unity's collider component, as we discussed in lecture. Do nothing and win. I had one student who wrote like confusion on here, still got the question right, but was confused. It is a kind of a fun meme in popular culture at the moment. But if you're looking for something in here that does nothing, then this is the closest match you'll get. This is the identity matrix, and it will do nothing, okay, if you apply it to any vector, okay, any 1x3 vector. Okay, powered by B2 contact listener. Your on trigger enter lifecycle function requires B2 contact listener to be used to make it work. If you got to and through homework 8, that's a pretty easy question. One thing that a bunch of people kind of messed up is what is Bullet and what is Havoc? Bullet is an open source physics engine. Havoc is the very famous commercial, kind of high grade, expensive physics engine, okay? And so just remembering havoc would allow you, if you've forgotten bullet, to kind of eliminate and put that one in. This engine, matrix right here, packs in both scaling, okay, doubling on X and Y, and some translation into this matrix right here. So that's the one that you want. In general, I try to prevent all three functionalities from getting together or from mixing rotation in with the other ones, because rotation makes things look especially strange, and it can be very actually ambiguous. Like you don't know how to describe it, right? There are multiple ways to describe a matrix that has a bunch of rotation and scale and all that mixed in. Here, pretty easy one. Almost no one messed this stuff up, which is really good. Difference between in-house engines and off-the-shelf engines. I think I'm gonna, if you have questions about this, go ahead and ask during office hours. We're gonna save some time. This one was pretty fun, okay? Your Lua knowledge, all right? And in particular, these are a bunch of Lua questions that ask you to identify the foot guns in the Lua language. And there are a couple in here. This is, hopefully useful to you if you got it right for reminding you of what issues you might run into later. I believe the only thing you don't have in here is like forgetting the self dot reference. Anyway, concatenate, right? No surprise. Right down here, loop iteration, pretty simple, okay? This is indexed loop iteration, so I pairs rather than pairs. Set metatable right here. We had quite a few people mess up the two set metatable functions. So remember, set metatable takes a table that you want to give a metatable to. Now, the metatable is literally this little anonymous table in here. And this metatable doesn't do anything unless it has certain properties, okay? And one of the properties that we care about is that __ index. That is basically assigning and telling it what is the parent of this other object, okay? So a metatable itself doesn't say anything about inheritance by default. It has a property that you can configure to make that happen, but metatables can also allow you to set up other pieces of meta information, like operators, okay? Stuff like that. And so this right here just ain't gonna work, okay? Definitely a Lua bug. Over here, we have the nice, we're gonna print a nil, basically, okay? We're traversing a nil right here. We're forgetting that Lua is 1 indexed instead of 0 indexed, and so a Lua bug. And then these other ones are fairly easy, okay? Local scope versus global scope. I don't think a single person messed that up. But yeah, but it was, I graded a while back. This is the killer of the entire exam, okay? I'm sure that some of you saw this and you just about freaked, okay? Said, oh no, anything but this. I'll tell you, if you have a reasonably strong feel for this stuff, the syntax is really easy. And it's very short, what you need, okay? The situation here is very, very simple. I don't think I could simplify it too much more than this. And so basically what we have here is a single source file in the root of our project directory, right next to the make file here. We have this source file that requires IOStream. Now, you know IOStream, and you can see that it's using these global carets, and so that is just not a concern for us, okay? We can just ignore this right here. When we see include a.h, we want to look at, okay, well, a.h, where is it? And where is our preprocessor going to look for a.h? By default, if we do nothing, it's going to look nowhere. Why? Because in this little hint right here, it says assume the preprocessor does not include the root directory by default. Okay, so this is going to fail. A.h isn't even in the root repro, it's in the stuff directory. This is kind of a messy project, okay? Not ideal. If you go include b/b.h, it'll be in here, but we need to make sure we check that root directory first, okay? So we also have information about these libraries. Library A is header only, so no binary to really think about. Library B is header and binary, which means that we need to tell the linker, okay, if we want it to do things. And so that's going to be handled kind of down here. Question 12 Question 12 says to use the Linux operating system, be careful about your I's and your lowercase L's. That's kind of the unfortunate part, depending on the font you use. It's a little bit hard to read a makefile sometimes. It wants you to write the include or header related flags related to compiling this script, okay? And so what we'd like to do to make this include b/b.h work, we need to have this just dash, capital I, and then our current directory. And if you do that, that's a place where the preprocessor will look for this path, okay? And it will find it. If you start in this current directory, it will look down B, it'll find the B folder, it looks for b.h within it, and it finds that too. So that line checks out, it works, it's all good. For the library A, we do include a.h. All right, so just looking, starting our search in this header, this kind of root of the project is not going to cut it. We need to make sure we look inside of the stuff folder, where suddenly, if we start our search from inside the stuff folder, this include a.h now works. We find the thing. The preprocessor finds what it wants to find, and the compilation succeeds. 13, what's the library flag that you might need to get this going? Just dash lowercase l and b is fine. Up here, you see that libb is installed globally. It's just called b, and so that is how you do that on Linux. And then when it comes to writing the full makefile, you need to use Clang++. You've been told that. You need to have O3 optimization, so we put that in there. And you need to have an output with a specific name. Okay, all those things, not too hard. What some students forgot is to include the .cpp file to actually compile the thing. You can then just take your answers from 12 and 13 and put it in here to rock and roll. Yeah, good time. So there is, this question's a little bit nasty in part because if you mess up 12 and 13, there's a good chance you'll mess up 14 as well. But I tended not to take too many points if you messed up something early, and then that causes you to mess up the final 14. Yeah.
I guess the one weird thing here is that you have the whole assume the preprocessor doesn't include the root directory, whereas makefiles do include the root directory.
Yep, I put it here just to clarify that. So, yep. Okay, so 15. A friend has implemented an expensive collision detection algorithm. Almost no one messed up this question. There were a lot of different solutions you could go with. You could go with a composite key, which is one of the optimizations a lot of students did early on. In here, we're just doing an unordered map with X pointing to another unordered map, Y to an actor, okay? If there's an actor in there, then you're good. You could also do like a vector of actors. There were 100 things you could do here as long as your explanation made a bit of sense. You got these points, okay? Kind of a gimme. Basically, do you remember what your thought process was in the early assignments? Homework 4, homework 5, stuff like that. This is a fun one. I like this one quite a bit. 16. This is kind of similar to a question, the data-oriented question from last year, but it has a couple more things it wants you to realize and talk us through. You have a character here that is using a very object-oriented kind of approach. There's a lot of information in here, and there's some very big data types that are very irrelevant. So when you are calculating this expression right here to figure out how many lives you have, how much health you've got, what the hunger is going to do to you, this frame, you don't need name. You do not need the string, okay? That string is gigantic. It's going to make your cache miss a lot more than it would if you left the string out. And so we do some calculations. We find out that our character struct is probably around 57 bytes, somewhere in the ballpark. And we can probably get it down to more like 10 to 12. And if we do that, that's around 5 times more objects we can fit in cache. And you can re-implement that algorithm in a nice, clean way, just using a couple arrays if you want to, or vectors. Some of you created structs, which only included the relevant data. That's headed toward an ECS approach. Yeah, you're rocking and rolling, okay? Only that stuff gets in the cache. You're not bringing the name in while you do this computation. It is a good time, okay? Yep, lots of people got lots of points on this. Yes?
So I saw this, I panicked a little bit. I thought we were supposed to separate all of the elements of the characters into their own separate vectors.
You
So
could.
I did do that. I was
Yeah.
just afraid.
I just don't care if I just don't want you to load it in to the
I
computation.
didn't load it everything. I just had to make
Yeah.
sure. Okay.
Well, if you lost points for doing
I
that, you
didn't
shouldn't
lose points
have.
for that. I just panicked.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, let me make
Yeah.
sure because I don't know if this was counted.
Gotcha.
Make
Yeah.
sure I'm covering my butt a little bit by having all
Yeah.
the elements still exist. I just want to call the ones I need.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay. All right, we are on to Lua, and this is kind of the first moment when we really want to look at the actual exam questions packet. So I told you that May and Magna would show up on the exam. That basically tells you nothing. It's a useless hint, which is the perfect kind of hint to give before an exam. The mission here is that we want to kind of do a bit of a cutscene, okay? We want to do a cutscene manager. I believe that's even what the component is called. Yep, cutscene manager. And this cutscene manager is going to be responsible for a few things. It wants to know when we're entering a cutscene. It wants to help us progress through that cutscene based on what cutscene it is. And so this has us writing Lua code, that kind of interacts with other actors in the scene, okay? There's an actor called May and an actor called Magna, and the gameplay here is a bit different than what you might be used to on EECS498.com, but this is kind of a co-op boss fight. So you have both of the sisters, and you need to check their stats every frame in order to figure out whether you need to enter a certain cutscene or whether you need to check the enemies to figure out if you need to enter another cutscene, okay? Victory cutscene. So you have information here kind of telling you, what conditions to check. And there's some information here asking for you to do this in a certain order, right? So for instance, the failure screen here should always be, if you reach that state, it should always be the thing that draws atop everything else, okay? Sometimes in games, in game dev, in fact, this happened to me last night, you can get into scenarios where like the player defeats the enemy, but then one of the projectiles that the enemy launched defeats the player. So is that considered a win or a loss, right? In this particular design, we consider it a loss. So the ordering was a little bit important. You need to use actor.find or actor.findAll. Now, I didn't... it struck me halfway through the exam that you can use actor.find and neglect actor.findAll to solve this problem. And I was like, why is everyone asking me about actor.find? Like, who cares about that? And I was like, oh, wait a second. Yeah, this actually works. It's actually, I think, a bit simpler because you just check whether it returns a null reference or not, a nil, right? So that's good stuff. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Show a cutscene, okay? If the game is not concluded in victory or defeat, show a cutscene, and every time the spacebar gets pressed, you proceed. Once you run out of slides to show, you stop, okay? So this is not crazy. This is not a crazy amount of logic. It's not crazy complicated, unless you're taking an exam and you're getting nervous, okay? At which point anything can become super hard. Yeah. So if you mess this one up, I certainly do not blame you or anything like that. Basically, we've got some functions here. One function, nice and clean, to kind of help you check the current state of the game. You also have a variable, okay, that's just chilling out here to help you keep track of the slides, the slide number. One interesting thing this year is that there was no requirement to avoid using global variables. Okay, typically it's best practice when you're scripting in Lua to kind of avoid polluting the global Lua state more than you need to, okay? Because some other component might try and use that, and it might get itself confused and blown up and stuff like that. But you've got your onUpdate function. That is the main lifecycle function that you can use here. Some students use the onLateUpdate function as well to make sure the failure screen renders atop anything else, no matter what. It's a little bit overkill. That's all right. It works. If it works, it works. It was really fun to grade. And some students started running out of space if they decided to enumerate every single number that was possible, noticing that it was either going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4, I think, but not 5. You can make this much shorter by just concatenating, okay? I probably should have changed the problem to be like, there could be an arbitrary number of slides in the cutscene, right? But no, there's just 1, 2, 3, and 4. So nothing too crazy. You've got a usage of input.getKey here, and that's it. You got if, else if, end, and there's an example for the syntax on how to use it in the glossary. So there you go. I forgot to include actor.instantiate in the glossary, which is going to be relevant, which is going to be very relevant in the next question. Anyone have any questions on this one so far? Did anyone see this? Did anyone see this right here and go like, oh no, he's going to make us implement like 2D collision detection. We have to make a platformer, right? And then you read it and it's like, oh, it's just a tiny cutscene handler, right? Yes?
I did see Team Up 2. The hands moved me out.
The hands? You don't like the hands? Right here?
She's like...
Yeah, you're right. It looks like her thumb.
But it looks like she's doing the like right arm thing. It's just the longer you look
oh, you're right. Magna's hand is backwards.
Yeah, like it should be her right shoulder's forward, her left is back.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, that's a bit weird. I think her thumb looks like it's just in the wrong place. Yeah. All right, well, whatever. Okay. How much time did you lose just noticing that?
I want to say like a good 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, good. Good job. Well done. Okay. All right. So we now have our second Lua question. This one's a little bit more in depth. It is a first for the course because it is a 2-component question, which I felt really spicy making this one. All right. So I hope you enjoyed. This is basically the idea that sometimes you want components to work together in a centralized fashion and a decentralized fashion. So in some cases, you'll have like a singleton manager component that is responsible for spawning in a bunch of other actors and a bunch of other components on those actors, okay? And this is very typical in something like a character select, and you can kind of see it. You've got all these characters kind of chilling out here, and you could have an arbitrary number of them, and you need a manager to spawn them all in and to keep track of which one of them is currently selected. When a character is selected, you have to have a means to know which character was selected. So how do we know that? Usually in a structure like this, the manager will call a function or flick a variable on the character, and then the character will handle animation-related stuff, okay? Interestingly, a lot of you went for the variable approach, which I thought was kind of funky, where you basically have a was-selected variable, and you just kind of flip it to true. I call it function in my solution. But that's okay. You can do whatever you want. This was a unique question in that there was specific requirements for the character select manager components and kind of strict requirements for the character component. We had a few students who kind of put one component's responsibilities into another component. I think you lost like a point for that or something. I don't remember. But not really what you want. But that's okay. So let's take a look at this. Okay, here we are, character select manager. All right, the character select manager needs to keep track of all of the characters that get spawned in. Indeed, the character select manager is responsible for reading a data structure and actually spawning the actors in to handle all of this, okay? Not only that, we need to keep track of these spawned in characters, but we also need to keep track of which one is currently selected. This is a number that needs to wrap. So as it moves, it needs to be moduloed, or it needs to be if-else back to within range, okay, of the number of spawned characters we have. In onStart, we read through this character data structure, which you're told exists. You're also told that every table inside of this character data structure has certain values associated with it. So like things like, I don't know, I think not .x and .y, but like .pose, .idle, .clip, okay? Things the character needs to do if they're selected. Okay, so you do the calculations the assignment spec requires of you. You insert them to keep track of them. One completely classic error that tons of students made is the distinction between the character actor, i.e. the character template, and the character component, okay? So if you look at the, let me see here. If you look at the spec, it says pretty explicitly that character data table, for every table in the character data table, instantiate an actor from the character template. Every character template actor comes with a character component. So we had so many examples. I'd say probably about 50% of students. They would spawn in and create the new actor by spawning instantiating from the template. And then they would go character actor dot x equals whatever. Dot pose equals whatever. But actors don't have those properties. Actors have components which might have those properties. So what you have to do here is you have to get the actor, okay? And then you need to get the character component on that new actor, and then you can fill out the component with all the data it needs, okay? In this case, I didn't give it like dot pose and dot idle and dot clip because I just said I'm just gonna give it the table, okay? The whole table, and the character can deal with that, all right? Okay, we do an insertion, which is also part of the glossary if you forgot the syntax. And then in on update, we're basically just allowing the player to move the hovered index around so that when the spacebar is eventually pressed, we know which character to notify. Okay, not too crazy, just a little bit of wrapping here at the end. The character is even simpler. The way that I chose to implement this is that on start, the character is going to store a value. I could have also put this right in here, but it's going to store a value called anim frames. It's going to be -1. And you know, if it's larger than 1, then we're going to draw some cool things. We draw the cool pose, right? If it's 0, that means we go to the next scene. And if it is not, so if it's -1, we just draw the normal idle pose, okay? at the X and Y position we calculated earlier. When the select function is called by the manager right here, we're going to play that audio, okay? Play the clip, and then we're going to set anim frames to 120. Once the anim frames variable is 120, that means it's larger than 0, which means we're going to send it down over time. We had some students, if there was only one syntax error, I usually didn't take any points away, but if they started to pile up, I would take them away. We had a lot of students forget that there's no minus equals or plus equals operator in Lua, which is kind of funny. So this syncs down, and we're showing the cool pose the whole time. And then as soon as it hits 0, we load the new scene. We're done posing. Okay, that's it. Not too crazy, but it can be a bit hard to wrap your head around if you haven't written that kind of collaboration between components before. Again, people are sometimes a bit frustrated about the amount of Lua on these exams, but it's a really, really good way to get a feel for how well you understand the structure and architecture of the engine you made. So that's why I do love to have these, okay? If you had syntax problems, it's probably not that big of a point loss. It usually wasn't. Okay. All right, so we are on to the evil question. This was the killer question that no one got right last year. This time, it was hard to find people who messed it up. Not that hard, I mean, but quite a few people got through it just fine, perfectly. It is similar to last year's question, but it's kind of reversed, actually. I wonder how many people wondered in their head if, like, oh, I wonder if he's going to do this. Like, take a question that already exists, reuse stuff, which is what I love to do most in life. Reuse what you've made and put a twist on it. It's like, yeah, what if we weren't getting chased? We were actually chasing the enemies, okay? So anyway, first place to always look is to look at your scene files. And our scene file is a bit longer than normal this time. You can see that we have 4 main actors that are interesting. I named them appropriately for you. I almost left a bug in the spec where the name was messed up. And like Baddie West was named Baddie South, which would have been very mean for me to leave that in. But these baddies, you can see that they have templates. These templates all come with transform components, okay? And the sprite render component that they also both have just uses the transform component to draw some stuff, very standard, okay? And you can kind of get a feel for how this all works by watching the first 2 frames rather than the first 1 frame. Last year, they only got the first frame. Now you got the first 2. And so you can see we got 4 of our objects here. Early on in the frame, we get right, okay? So you might be doing your calculation and say, well, hey, my baddie on, my player, Angry Bill, should be at 1, -1. So 1, -1. So you might be confused to see that it's not actually in the cell. It's 1 to the right. Well, that's because it moved, okay? It moved early in the frame, okay? And it moved right. Some of the other actors also moved right. One of the interesting things about the enemy AI in this particular question is that depending on where the enemy AI is in relation to the player, that's what this run AI function is right here, it will either move right, move left, move up, or not move at all. I believe the rules are if the enemy is on the same level, the same Y level as the player, they'll go up immediately. If the enemy is to the right or at the same X position as the player, we go right. If the enemy is to the left, we go left. The enemy's position are clamped, which you can see right here, which means the enemies can't leave the grid, okay? They can't leave the visible grid. So everything kind of moves and ends up where it is. We press down and we see the enemy kind of go down. All the other enemies don't move, okay, because all of this AI logic only runs on even frames, not on odd frames like frame number 1. So we are now covering that cell right there, okay? Something that's a little bit subtle is that within the keyboard, where is it? Yeah, within the keyboard controls component, we have this one line right here that sets a global variable called score to 0. This happens at the beginning of the game, and this score value is referenced and updated in the onUpdate function of the enemy. The enemy script, when it detects that the player is on top of us, will change our image to KO, will increment the score, and then we'll check if the score is 2 or more, and if so, it will go ahead and change the sprite of the player to a victory sprite, okay? It will then turn itself off so that it no longer does any enemy AI, but it will continue to render itself in place, okay? Enemy will always render atop other things because it is the final actor in the scene list, which means it runs last. All of its components run last, okay? No on-late update shenanigans happening here, okay? And so we continue to proceed. Wait, hold on a second, right here. Good. Thankfully, the C++ question is really easy, so it won't take us very long. Okay, we get to this situation right here. Our actors have tried to move. Our players moved up. Our actor on the west side has not been able to move. It tries to move west out of the grid, but then it gets clamped back in. The block, the enemy that's to the right of us, has moved rightward even more. And now we're going to start kind of chasing that character down, okay? And so we move to the right, okay? We move to the right again, but so too does the thing we're chasing. We move to the right. We're about to catch up, but then what happens here? So we move up to try and reach and defeat the enemy, but the enemy has escaped us, okay? How did this happen? Some students accidentally had the player defeat the enemy right here, but that's not what would actually happen. Okay, and the reason is that the enemy is going to get to move and make its decisions before the player does, which means the enemy gets to move out of the way before the player can move upward to hit that same cell. Okay, and so the enemy escapes, but not for long. So on this particular frame, the player catches up to that enemy. But we don't change our sprite to victory. Why? It's another interesting ordering problem. The enemy, right? The enemy has already run their AI script, okay? Let me see here. Yep, right here. The enemy has already run all of this AI script logic. It's done for the frame before the player can move to join the enemy in that cell. So it's actually not until the next frame when the enemy goes to move and realizes, yeah, right here, realizes that it has been defeated, the score is incremented, and now the player's sprite is set to victory. The player doesn't move at all. The sprite render on the player renders the new victory sprite. We see it there. The player moves up, and the enemy is still there, okay? Not moving anymore. There you go. Kind of action-packed. I can see how you could be second-guessing yourself. There's a lot going on, and you have to kind of simulate it in your head. And this puts a lot of pressure on your knowledge of how our engines work, which is why I really like this question. And what certain things and features are used for. Okay, this question very well could have had a late update to do things like check if the player and the enemy are on the same cell, but it didn't. Okay, so you might consider this a bug that could be fixed via usage of late update. But anyway, we move on to the final question, and this is one of those questions I was really strongly hinting about before the exam even came. It's a question which is very easy to get distracted and get overwhelmed and end up not writing anything, okay? Most of you, I think, did a really good job on this one. A couple people did not provide support for multiple connections on the same component, which cost you a few points if you didn't do that. I know a few of you saw this and saw that you're doing networking stuff, and you're like, we're doomed, right? Like, there's been nothing in the course about networking. This guy is just going to ask us weird networking questions and then take a bunch of points, right? It's like a reverse curve for the whole course. We got too many A's in the course. We just need to knock some points off. No, that's not the case. Okay, this is Event Bus. All right, it is very similar to what you did with PubSub. In fact, I think the API for Connect is it the same? No, it's simpler because PubSub, event.subscribe, has event name, component reference, function reference. And this only has component reference, function reference. So the idea here is that you can call Connect to basically turn any function you want into a lifecycle function. And then if any networking information comes in, you have to get it delivered to that function and get it called at the right time. And so just understanding what the engine wants and what the feature is and how to connect everything up is most of the question. There are a few requirements here, right? You want connect, okay, data structure, blah, 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 instance actor, okay. It's kind of telling you what to do here. Fill out this function, fill out this one, add a data structure here, all good. You did not need to do try-catch on the function, which I think a couple of students came up to me and asked, like, you want try-catch here? I'm like, no. Like, that is not necessary. I think in a real deal engine you would. And if I wanted to make the engine, the question a little bit harder, I would have added that as a requirement just to see if you remember, right, using it. But we didn't. So, all right. So let's go and look at the solution. At least one possible solution, because I think there were some others that the students could do as well and get full credit, as long as it made reasonable sense and was reasonably efficient. Here, this is the pretty basic approach most students seem to do. We're going to add a data structure inside of our actor that's going to kind of keep track of our component reference, which here is not a Lua ref, it's actually a string, component key, right? And then we're going to have a vector of Lua refs. These are the function references, the Lua functions on that component. So together, if we have these two things, we're rocking and rolling, we can make that function call successfully. If you don't have the Lua component reference, you're in big trouble, okay? You're going to run into some very strange problems. There are a lot of useful things here. Some students didn't realize. They just forgot about the fact that get actor by ID is here and that get component by key is here. These two things are very nice. And if you remembered that these are here, then your problems became very simple. And if you forgot about them, you're probably just very confused. How am I supposed to do this, right? Do I need to assume that there's another variable I can't see? No, right? Use what's here. On connect, you simply add the receive function reference in, use the component key in order to index into that data structure. Whatever data structure is holding stuff, you can just use these two things to put the function in and store it for later. For disconnect, it's a little bit of a strange disconnect. It disconnects everything. I think in a more luxurious example, engine, you would have to specify which function you want to disconnect, but we didn't make you do that. And then right here, you're kind of told what to do in the comments here. You're given a data structure. This is the thing coming in. This is provided to you. You can just assume that you have a colleague working on the engine for you, or maybe the instructor staff gave you a helper script, and it's just very nice. And so you get incoming network data in this just super convenient little package that you can mess with to figure out where you want to route this stuff. Okay, and then you're just routing information through your engine. So the first thing you want to do is when some network data has arrived, you've got this message object. You want to get the actor that this message is associated with, and you can get that just by doing .actor ID. You can use the function actor, get actor by ID. This is a static. Yeah, this is a static function, so you should call it appropriately. I think we had a couple of students who accidentally called it like a member function, which is not how you want to do it. You can check if actor is enabled. Okay, that requirement I believe is in here. And if it's not enabled, don't do anything. Okay. You can then use the actor's local member function, get component by key, using message key to get the component that you need to deal with. You can then check if it's Boolean for enabled is true or not, and you can bail out if you want to. Wait a second, is it actor.active? Did I write a typo here? I did. I totally did. Yeah, it's actor.active. Actor does not have a .enabled, okay? Oh, all right, I need to fix it right now before I forget. Sorry for going a little bit late, team. I will stay a little bit late to help everyone who wants to get their regrade requests in. I'll stay as long as I have to help you with that. Why can't I go further? What? Google is in trouble. You know why? Okay, because they didn't used to resort to cheap tactics like this, where they would have to block Firefox. Okay, they're nervous. Okay, I can feel it, can sense it. I'll let you think about this solution a little bit more while I log in to fix it. Not super complicated. You just need to remember that there could be multiple functions on this component, and you need to call all of them, okay? And you need to also remember to send in the message. I had a student who did a wonderful job on this, all of this, but then they forgot to send in the message. It's like they call in the function, but none of the data's coming through, okay? So that's a fun bug. Anyway, yes, so let's go in here, and then I'm just going to change this active, boom, okay, all fixed up, good. So now all the students next year studying your exam won't be confused. Okay, and so we check that. Now that we have our Lua function and we have our key, we got all this good stuff, we can now use our data structure. I called it network functions. Use a for each loop to iterate through all of the function references and just call them, right? Call them, make sure you remember to send in the self-reference. Okay, really important in Lua, send in that self-reference. And then make sure you send in the data as well. Some students put in the try catch, which is a good idea, but it was not required, and so it did not affect your score. And then the final thing, I had some students who I had one student who began to walk out without noticing the question on the last page. Fortunately, they glanced at me and just happened to see the empty last page. Very lucky, and they grabbed the exam back and drew something. So there you go. And that's it. That's it. Took a long time for you to do the exam, right? It's a long exam, very tiring. Took a long time for me to make and design this exam, and so I hope it wasn't too nasty for you. But if you have any regrade requests, make sure you ask me. And again, make sure you just do the basic stuff, like calculate, do the sum on the front, because we already found one student. I cheated him out of a point, okay? I messed up my arithmetic, Okay? I can program a game engine for you, but I can't add a few numbers. Imagine that. Okay, well, anyway, everyone, good to see you. We're going to have a nice special final lecture on Monday, and so I hope to see you there, but if you can't join us, it's been a pleasure. And I'm going to be here for the next 2 hours, or as long as it takes, to get your exams in a good shape, okay? So, yeah, I'm going to throw some music on. Give me like 5 minutes to get my voice back, and please put your name on the office hours queue, and I'll be up there, okay? I do not want your exams back, but remember, if you take that exam out of the room, I will not regrade it after that point, okay? So please regrade, ask for regrade now, or hold your peace, okay? All right, see you later, everyone. Okay.
For non-exam questions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. You can still say. Yep, go ahead and check. Take care. Yeah, I'll see you. All right, everyone online, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.